What is going on, fantasy football owners? It is another edition of the Fantasy Football Stock Report coming at you big for Week 14 this week. First off, gotta say it, big news. Because of you guys' support and the number of views that I've received on the channel, I can finally record videos now longer than 15 minutes. Yay! So thank you guys so much for your comments, your questions, just your support in general. I couldn't have got to this point without you guys. So thank you all for the kind words of encouragement and support and your questions. I love answering them for you guys every single week. So thank you again for that. So I can go into a little more detail now on the guys that I like and don't like as the seasons go on. Um, so, and I've also been thinking a lot about what I'm going to do after the football season ends. I'm kind of maybe thinking of doing maybe once a week, kind of a video, just my general thoughts on sports topics that are going on during the week, kind of like a weekly sports recap, if you will. If you have any ideas for like something like that or whatever, let me know in your comments or any questions, and I'll be happy to take them. But for now, we are trying to get you guys ready for a win in Week 14. Myself, it's pretty simple for me this week. I win, and I'm in the playoffs. Doesn't matter what anybody else does. If I lose this week, I'm going to have to get some help from scoring points. So hopefully it's the same for you guys this week, or if not, maybe you're playing spoiler again for someone else. So this is now called, instead of the 5 to ride video, now it can go a little bit longer, it'll be the guys to ride video. These will be the guys that you want to play this week to really help you with fantasy success this week. So we're going to jump right in and talk about quarterbacks. And if you've probably noticed, last week was kind of a divided week for me. Living here in Indiana, the Colts have always been my team. I've been a Colts fan from the start, even during the good times and the bad. I have been a fan of theirs. But I had to have a backup team to fall back on just in case they struggled. So you notice, you normally, I wear my Lions hat. Well, last week the Colts and the Lions played each other, which was an awesome game. I was really pulling for, because I've been Colts all my life, I obviously wanted the Colts to win. But I knew it would be tough in Detroit. But you got to admit, the comeback by Andrew Luck in those final few minutes was just absolutely sick. So because of that and because of this great matchup this week, Andrew Luck is my must-start quarterback of the week this week. The Titans' defense this season has not been able really to stop anybody. I mean, what more can you say about the guy? I mean, and now we're hearing debates about who's been better all year, Luck or RG3. I think they've both been outstanding fantasy options for their teams this year and for fantasy owners everywhere. But I think this week the matchup is just too juicy to pass up for Luck and his owners. So I think he's definitely a very safe starting option this week going up against that Titans defense. I think he even torched them earlier in the year as well when they played earlier. So, granted, the schedule is tough down the stretch. The Colts have to play the Texans twice later on. But definitely this week, you can't ignore it. You can't ignore the matchup. Andrew Luck, definitely a starting option this week. Another solid option this week that I really like that I know was on the downside list last week, but actually he came through pretty strongly, and that's Russell Wilson of the Seahawks, another rookie. The rookies really had a big week last week. Luck and RG3 and Russell Wilson all had outstanding fantasy weeks last week. Wilson had 30 fantasy points in a CBS league. This week, going up against the Cardinals at home, where the Seahawks tend to play better, it's a no-brainer for me. If you are unsure on your number one option, as maybe it's a tough matchup this week, or if you're just looking for a plug-in guy, Russell Wilson is certainly a strong option. The Cards defense has definitely fallen flat since that 4-0 start. The team has lost 8 straight. They're a mess. And Wilson is just being productive week after week. So I think he's a solid number one, number two guy for you this week. Definitely a guy you can put into your lineups. I mentioned on the feed, on my comments, that if I did not get these up by Thursday, which I should have these up by Thursday night, recording them right now on Thursday afternoon. So Peyton Manning against the Raiders tonight is a must-start option. This is another awesome matchup for Manning's owners going up against the Raiders D that really, again, has not been great this year. We know that with the weapons that Manning has around him in Denver, Jacob Tammy's coming on strong of late. Obviously, Demaryius Thomas, Eric Decker, all these guys you definitely want to start. Not so sure I feel about Noshawn Moreno taking the running back load in Denver. I see him more as a number 2 guy, but definitely you want to start the vast majority of Broncos skill players for this game. Another quarterback I like is Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's kind of a shocker probably to a lot of you. I've been hard on Ryan Fitzpatrick in Buffalo all year, how he's been so usually rough in matchups, but last week had 21 fantasy points against Jacksonville, which was a really good matchup for him. But this week, going up against the Rams, yeah, the Rams defense a little bit tougher, but I think Fitzpatrick is a pretty decent, safe number 2, number 3 play this week. He was definitely impressive in that matchup. He's able to find his weapons to throw to. C.J. Spiller's getting more involved in the kind of the backfield in that double running back passing threat. So I think the potential is there to be a strong number 2, number 3 guy this week. And the other must start this week, and again, I think this goes for all Tampa Bay skill players as well, because again, Tampa Bay's playing the Eagles this week. We know the Eagles D is a mess right now. We know the Eagles O is also a mess right now. So it's just a mess in general. Josh Freeman, definitely you want to start him this week because the Eagles D is a train wreck. Running backs this week that I like. I'm only mentioning this guy because I'm sure that a lot of you at this point in the season are probably going to maybe do a little bit of a panic based on the matchup. Some owners will, owners at this time of year really tend to play things different. Some will stick with their studs who've taken them this far. Others will try to play the matchups. And actually, this time, both are good depending on the rest of your lineup, depending on who you have at each position. But when it comes to running back, I think, at least for me, I've had 2 top 5 running backs all year, Adrian Peterson and Doug Martin. And Peterson, I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, it's the Bears. Bears have kind of been tough against the run this year, but don't panic. Don't panic on this just because of the matchup. Peterson has gotten his owners this far this season because of the fact that he has been able to come back so strongly from the torn ACL last year. You're definitely starting AP this week. Don't panic on that. He had a big week last week, 28 points. You are starting Adrian Peterson this week. So just don't panic because of the matchup in this one. You definitely want to start AP this week. Other guys at running back that I like, dare I say, probably the only Philadelphia Eagle that you probably want to be worth starting in lineups is Bryce Brown. He has been awfully good the last 2 weeks. He's pretty much Philly's, I think, main offense now. The fact that Vick isn't starting, the fact that McCoy is probably going to be out again with a concussion, the fact that they've lost Deshaun Jackson, like I said, it's a mess. So he's probably the only guy worth starting this week. I see him as more of a number 2 this week for this Tampa matchup, but still, I think he's one you can probably plug in your lineup. Nice to see a couple guys back that off of injuries, and one that was actually kind of a surprise to me. But the non-surprise was DeMarco Murray of Dallas. He did come back last week and had 15 fantasy points. I think he's definitely worth starting again, excuse me, as a number 1, number 2 option against the Bengals. Clearly showed no ill effects from that foot injury that he suffered. And again, also Matt Forte. He was the surprise to me last week. I didn't think he'd be active last week coming off that second ankle injury that he had, but he was active last week. And I think he's definitely worth starting again. If he shows no ill effects from that, I think he's definitely going back to being normally as you would consider for your fantasy rosters. Trent Richardson of Cleveland, normally a must-start anyway because of the year that he's had in Cleveland, another strong rookie performance this year. But going up against Kansas City, granted, we all know what happened in Kansas City last week with the tragedy involving Javon Belcher and his girlfriend. But so the win last week, definitely in a very emotional victory for the Chiefs. But the thing of it is their defense still gives up a lot when it comes to fantasy points and to a lot of different positions. So I know they're probably going to be playing on that emotion the rest of the season, but they still give up a lot. Trent Richardson is still a safe must-start for you this week. And finally, one more running back for you guys. Vick Ballard, going back to the Colts. Vick Ballard, he found the end zone last week for the first time all season, had 12 fantasy points. I think there's a really good chance going up against that Titans D that Ballard will find the end zone again this week. I like him as a strong, maybe even borderline number 1, number 2 option for you this week. A guy you can definitely count on, I think, for a solid performance. So definitely you can fall on Vick Ballard if you have him on your fantasy team. Wide receivers for you guys. Again, some of these probably are pretty obvious based on the matchups, but I think you got to go with these guys. I mentioned Demaryius Thomas and Eric Decker. Obviously, most of Denver's pass. I think this is going to be a real pass-happy game with Denver and Oakland. I don't know if Moreno and McFadden are going to be McFadden / Marcel Reese are going to be really big options. I think this is going to be a pass fest. Carson Palmer, is going to have to throw in this game to his receivers: Denarius Moore, Darius Hayward-Bay, Brandon Myers. So these guys are definitely going to have to be involved. I think it's going to be a really, really big pass fest tonight. So I like all these guys. Normally, Thomas is a must-start anyway, but definitely you want to start him this week, along with maybe even Eric Decker. Normally, they kind of, one goes off and one goes down. Some weeks they both go off. I think this is kind of a both go off kind of week because Oakland's secondary is just so rough. Same thing with Indianapolis. Again, same thing with this matchup against Tennessee. Donnie, Avery, T.Y. Hilton. I think both could have pretty solid weeks, but again, the thing of it is there's also Reggie Wayne to contend with, and Wayne kind of had a down week last week because Avery and Hilton both went off, but that's kind of the thing. I think Avery and Hilton are both solid number 3s with upside this week. You just don't know which one's going to go off, though. It's kind of the risk with them, with kind of a loaded receiving core. You never know who's going to get the bulk of the work. Obviously, you're starting Reggie Wayne. That's a given. But you don't want to fall. You don't want to leave him on your bench when he goes off, obviously. But so you treat Avery and Hilton if you picked up these guys off the wire potentially. Maybe number 3 guys you can plug in if you're needing help at wide receiver this week. A guy I really like, and I picked him back up off waivers and gave him a second chance, as his schedule is looking really favorable down the stretch, is Josh Gordon of Cleveland. Brandon Whedon has looked at this guy a lot this year, and granted, some of his other receivers are starting to come back, like Muhammad Massaquoi. He's getting Benjamin Watson, the tight end, more involved, and of course he's got Richardson for those little screens out of the backfield. But I love Josh Gordon this week. I even see him as a solid number 2. I'm starting him this week in my lineup as a number 2 receiver. I think he could have a big day again. He went off last week for 17 points, and I think he could have a big week this week, another touchdown potential this week against Kansas City. So if you're looking again for receiver help, and if he's out there, he should definitely be owned at this point with his schedule going forward. But definitely Josh Gordon, I think he's a guy you can rely on in leagues this week. Tampa Bay, again, going up against the Eagles. Really like Mike Williams this week, too. The matchup's great. The only concern I have about Williams is that he really has been kind of inconsistent this year. Not really a hair puller, more of a head scratcher. I mean, he has weeks when he scores, he does well, and then he falls back to earth a bit. And then he goes up again, and then you have him on your bench, and then he goes off like what I had last week. I had 3 guys. Check this. Receiver's been my weakest position all season long. I've been strong everywhere else except for wide receiver. And I had 3 receivers on my bench last week have double-digit points, and I had Broyles who tore his ACL and ended his season. Just goes to show how fickle this game really is. But definitely Mike Williams, if he can score again this week, great matchup. I like him as a number 2, number 3 with upside. And also Golden Tate in Seattle going up against. I said I like Russell Wilson. I like Golden Tate. Golden Tate this week. There's doubts on whether or not Sidney Rice might play this week. He's having a concussion last week. You want to definitely monitor that situation. But even if Rice does play, I still like Golden Tate's upside for this Cardinals matchup. Again, the Cardinals D, rough. We don't know what to expect out of them. If Rice is out, I think Tate is definitely worth a number 2 starting option. If Rice still plays, I like Tate as a number 3 with upside because Rice, is still going to get a lot of the throws from Russell Wilson. But Tate is getting more involved in the offense, and that's a good thing for guys who are picking him up off the wire to see what they get out of him. So number 3 if Tate plays, if Rice plays, and number 2 if Rice is out. Finally, tight ends for you guys. I mentioned him again. I think that it's going to be pass fest tonight. Brandon Myers of Oakland has come on strong of late, had 19 fantasy points last week. Get this statistic. As ESPN would say, here's next level for you, okay? Myers had 15 targets last week. He caught 14 of them. 14 out of 15. That's probably 90-some%. I don't know the exact math, but like maybe 93. But that says dang. That's ridiculous. Okay, you catch 14 of the 15 targets thrown your way, plus you get a touchdown. That just goes to show how much Myers is getting involved in this Oakland offense. So I think he's definitely worth starting as a number 1, number 2 option for this matchup tonight. Good news for Heath Miller owners, and actually just breaking news that came in a little bit ago. Big Ben Roethlisberger, he's back for the Steelers this week. So he will be starting this week in the Pittsburgh matchup against San Diego. I think you can definitely consider him as a solid option this week. And that means you can also consider guys like Mike Wallace, guys like Antonio Brown, and Heath Miller. Heath, yes, he will be back because he'll be helped by Big Ben coming back. I like him as a number 1, number 2 with upside this week because of that. So yay for Steelers owners and yay for Big Ben owners. He'll be back this week. Martellus Bennett of the Giants, really like him this week. He's been coming on strong of late for the Giants. And the Saints-Giants game, again, I think it's going to be one of those that's going to be a pass fest. Come on, this is Drew Brees against Eli Manning. It's, again, 2 of the better passers in the game. You can't go wrong either way. I think this is really, you're probably starting all receivers on both these teams. Maybe not Devery Henderson and maybe not Reuben Randall, but like the outside guys. But the big guys on the depth chart, yeah, you're definitely starting those names this week because this is going to be a big time passing game, I think. So I definitely like Martellus Bennett this week is a, excuse me, I don't know what's in my throat, but man, as a starting option. Oh, excuse me. Yeah. Not really. Yeah, I got it. My Dark Load Wander's filling up. I got to do a load here too. So. All right. Okay. All right. All right. Bye. Sorry about that. live video, folks. All right. Real quick, Kyle Rudolph of Minnesota is another guy. And actually with Kyle Rudolph, really, I'm only doing this one because I'm kind of doing this for like a reverse jinx effect. Okay. I've had him on the guys to avoid list the last 2 weeks, and I've only said he's only worth it if he's scoring touchdowns. Well, he scored touchdowns the last 2 weeks. So this week, I'm going to put Kyle Rudolph on the love list. I'm going to put him on the guys to ride list. Start him this week. Please, start Kyle Rudolph. Maybe Ponder will keep throwing to him. I don't know, but this week, start the guy, okay? And finally, again, normally a must-start guy anyway for you, but Tony Gonzalez of the Falcons going up against the Panthers. Normally he's a must-start option anyway, but you definitely are starting him against the Panthers defense. And finally, one more wild card for you guys. Again, Cleveland, Kansas City, 2 rough defenses in this game. I actually like both Brady Quinn and Brandon Weeden as number 2 quarterbacks for this matchup this week. Again, these defenses really can't stop anybody. I mean, I think you guys would be maybe okay with Weeden, but it's like Brady Quinn, are you kidding? Well, he actually looked pretty decent last week. So maybe Kansas City's going to have a pulse after all. Maybe that win maybe wasn't a fluke. We'll see what happens. But these 2 defenses really can't stop anybody. So I like Brady Quinn. I like Brandon Weeden as number 2 quarterbacks for this weekend's matchup. All right, guys. Those are the guys to ride this week. Again, thank you guys so much for all your support and encouragement. I really appreciate it. If you have any comments, any questions, please feel free to leave them. I will try to get to them as many as I can. I know I've been really working a lot of hours at work lately. It's been really busy, and so I'm trying to get, if I'm late on answering them, I apologize for that. I'm trying to get you guys set for these big-time weeks down the stretch, so feel free. And also, don't forget to check out the Guys to Avoid video as well. I'll post that. And in terms of the Facebook notes, I don't know really, since I now can record longer than 15 minutes, I don't know if I'll be posting those up anymore. I usually just did that as a guide for more detail on these guys that I like and don't like, so I might not be putting those up anymore. So we'll see what happens. If you guys like them, please feel free to mention that. If not, I won't do them. But I think it's now easier for me to just do this on here and do it now that I can do it longer than 15 minutes. So again, thank you guys so much, and don't forget to check out the Guys to Avoid video, and good luck this week in Week 14. Hopefully you can get that win, and if you're in the playoff hunt, go for the playoff stretch. Thanks, guys.